Welcome back to the 2014 Bridgewater's Finest Movie Awards, presented in conjunction with the Resident Movie Lover blog at residentmovielover.blogspot.ca, as well as Library Chess Productions and MediaDetour.com. What we're going to be getting into in this video now is our award. It's 3 selections each. Our award for Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Director of 2014. Now, before we get into it, we should kind of clarify, kind of talk a little bit about like the selection process for these awards. We've talked a little bit about how Best Director, I guess, is kind of a misnomer in some ways, because it feels like you give an award for Best Director and you're not like recognizing, especially the cinematographer, like the cinematographer, the DOP, whatever.
Yeah, because it's like the Academy gives awards to everyone. Yeah. But since we aren't the Academy,
and we figure people
like don't best costume.
In general, people don't care about cinematography because not a ton of people know what it is.
Like they care about it, but yeah, they don't know what it is. They can't. They don't realize like, oh shit, that's what. Yeah. Because everyone cares what a movie looks like, right? But no one's like, oh fuck, the cinematography.
Yeah, exactly. Man, this must have had a great director of photography. Yeah. It's like, no.
Oh, the DP was on point.
Exactly. But when people hear director, they know what it means, essentially.
Yeah, so we just want to honor the person who keeps it all together, but we gotta, show love.
Exactly.
Like, so cinematographers and...
Yeah, exactly. So anybody that wins like a Best Director award, there's an implicit nod to the DP and the cinematographer and everything like that. But we're just gonna, by name at least, honor the director. You may also notice that our ice caps are gone. We finished those through the filming process, but that means time for the reserves to come in.
I've never had this before in my life, so let's.
So tasty, so fresh, so clean.
Let's try this shit.
By the way, we are not sponsored by either Tim Hortons or Starbucks.
It's decent.
It's decent. It's decent. It's good enough.
It's good enough that it's going to quench my thirst. I'm going to wildly enjoy it.
Fair enough. Let's get into these awards. We are going to start with the best 3 actors of 2014. So as often happens with awards like this, we made our 3 choices, but narrowing it down to 3 in a year with great performances was a difficult thing to do. So, of course, we also have our honorable mentions, who we won't talk about too much, but we're going to have 3 honorable mentions, I think, each, probably for each award. So, again, we'll just kind of touch on them a little bit. They just didn't quite make the cut this year. For me, in terms of Best Actor 2014, honorable mention goes to Eddie Redmayne in The Theory of Everything, who played Stephen Hawking pretty much to perfection, and to the point that he looked like Stephen Hawking, and just did such a great job presenting that character in a very mature light. Shia LaBeouf for Fury, and I've come down so hard on Shia LaBeouf in the past, but his performance as the kind of religious soldier in Fury, he was unbelievable, and I wish I would have been able to see Nymphomaniac this year if it wasn't fucking 4 hours. And my final honorable mention goes to Michael Keaton in Birdman. He was so good as that character. We'll probably end up talking about Birdman at some point in later videos. But Michael Keaton,
ow, my eye!
Yeah, exactly, right in the eye. But Michael Keaton in Birdman, just a fantastic performance, matched shot for shot by Ed Norton.
You can do more than 3 honorables if you want. I only say that because I got
because you have more. Because you have much more. All right. Well, those are my 3 honorable mentions that I have done down here. Here are my 3 winners for Best Actor of 2014. My number 3 Best Actor of 2014 is Jake Gyllenhaal. That is, of course, for his performances not only in Nightcrawler but also in Enemy. Yeah. By the way, we take whole year into account.
Well, we can.
We can.
And it's kind of a weird thing, because it's like he could be based on one role, or it could just be on body of work through the year.
So 2 of my 3 are on body of work, and 1 is for just a single performance. So my number 3, again, for Enemy and Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal. My number 2 for Her, The Immigrant, as well as Inherent Vice, is Joaquin Phoenix. And my number 1 Best Actor of 2014 for his role in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is Andy Serkis. So let's talk about, we're going to start with Jake Gyllenhaal. In Enemy, of course, he has a very difficult role where he basically, he plays himself twice. Where, like, it's him, it's his character, but it's 2 different personas within his own character, directed by the potentially genius Denis Villeneuve, who also directed Prisoners, that also had Jake Gyllenhaal in it. And it's a great look at, like, sexual deviancy and love and kind of a split personality kind of deal, and which personality becomes dominant and which one becomes submissive. It's a great, just a really, really great movie, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays 2 in 1 excellent roles, we'll put it that way. And of course, in Nightcrawler, just almost a haunting performance of a total and complete ass munch.
In my critique review, I said he played a creepy fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just a horrible person, but it's like the perfect role for Gyllenhaal, because
he's like arguably the best villain of the year.
It's true. Like, he goes to places with his, I don't know if he qualifies himself as a method actor, but he goes to places in his roles that, like, from years ago, like Donnie Darko, he went somewhere for his role in Darko, and that's more than a decade old now. So, I mean, like, he's been doing that for a lot of years. This year, he was particularly spectacular in Enemy and Nightcrawler, so he's my number 3 Best Actor of the Year. My number 2, as I mentioned, Joaquin Phoenix, was in 3 things this year that I really, really liked him in. Obviously, Her, which again we'll be talking about a little bit later, but he plays this, I feel like his name was Ted, but I can't remember what his actual name was, but so he plays a character who obviously is very lonely. He's either divorced or had broken up with, like, a long-term relationship or something, and finds love with an artificial intelligence, and finds something in that he didn't find within humanity. And Phoenix was so on point this year. Like, he was just fantastic. And he started it, like, really, really bringing it with her alongside Scarlett Johansson. They played off of each other so well, so he was fantastic in that. The Immigrant, he played a bit of an asshole character in The Immigrant, was ultimately redeemable at the end, but finds Marion Cotillard, who is obviously an immigrant coming to America in the, I think, 1920s or 1930s, and basically pushes her into prostitution and dancing and things like that, and plays like not really a malevolent character, but kind of just a character that's a victim of the times and kind of goes crazy. And that's a theme of Joaquin Phoenix characters, because I think that's just Joaquin Phoenix. And he just kind of goes a little nuts. And speaking of going a little nuts, we have Inherent Vice, where he plays Doc, and he's a drug-fueled former PI who may or may not be hallucinating for the whole movie. It's kind of a gray area. But he's, again, in Inherent Vice, he's phenomenal, and inside of a really good cast as well. But he, in a really good cast, shines here in Inherent Vice and also in Her, which had a pretty good cast. So Joaquin Phoenix, my number 2 on the year. And my number 1, Andy Serkis, only for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The character that he brings alive in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Cesar, like a monkey, a CGI, it is, but like a CGI fucking ape made me feel things.
There was so many emotions.
It really wasn't. Like, he killed it as Caesar. He was so good in that role. Obviously, like, he made a name for himself as Gollum in the Rings movies, but like here, he's just taking that style of acting to the next level, and he's so good as Caesar. So there you go. Jake Gyllenhaal, Joaquin Phoenix, Andy Serkis, top 3 best actors of 2014.
I don't give a shit. I'm throwing out 6 honorable mentions, but you'll like one of them.
Okay.
At least. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing it kind of for you too.
All
I
right.
think there's probably one you probably had to edit out of yours.
Okay.
Michael Parks from Tusk.
Mm.
I know. I know it pained you
me.
too.
But that's so for me.
I started off with that.
Michael Parks is a national treasure.
Yeah, he was wonderful. Really, the only great thing about Tusk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Chris Evans, because of Snowpiercer.
Right.
And you know what? Captain America. Not that superhero movies tend to need... Like, if it was just Captain America, he wouldn't have made the list.
No.
But he was great in Snowpiercer.
Yeah. It's
true. It was the best role he's ever done.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, I probably could have edited this one out. I don't think he needed to be there. But I'm keeping him in. Then Jake Gyllenhaal for the creepy fuck. Mm-hmm. Steve Carell, who's getting mad love for Foxcatcher.
Yeah, Steve Carell was one of my honorables. Right? Just got knocked off at the end. And
then I'm keeping... And these 2 are kind of names that maybe aren't getting the love. Mm-hmm. Dan Stevens from The Guest.
Yes.
Played it perfectly. He was originally on my 3, but I took him out because it was just like the 3 that I picked just did a better job.
Yeah, no, spotless.
And then the last one for honorable is kind of a guy I've been kind of championing since I watched one of the movies this year.
I know
Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell.
I'm saying it right here. That name is gonna be places.
Yep.
And he
Remind us again, Jack O'Connell in
Startup and Unbroken. Like, he originally was in my 3, but then I thought, no, the 3 that I ended up picking had either a stronger role or maybe a better year, but O'Connell is like the breakout star.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe even next year, depending on the movies he does, I think O'Connell has what it takes.
Jack O'Connell was easily the best thing about Unbroken.
Yeah, like, it was just... And Startup, he played like a prisoner. Nice. And it was like a violent prisoner from a broken home, and he was just wonderful.
Right.
So, my number 3, Michael Keaton in Birdman. I mean, he pretty much summed it up. To keep this video kind of short, pretty much. Keaton just... It's great, even in a meta way, because he's like playing a superhero, like a former superhero.
Right.
You know, he's Batman.
And
obviously.
he was, yeah, exactly.
So even on a meta level, it's kind of really interesting. Even though he's Birdman in this one. Number 2, Tom Hardy for Locke and the Drop.
Right.
He's not getting love.
Anything. Nobody's saying anything about Tom Hardy, really.
No, and I don't know. He's kind of quietly become one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
Because, like in Locke, he essentially... It's all him. Mm-hmm. It's all him. It's all him in the same way that like a movie like Buried was all Ryan Reynolds. And The Drop. Even The Drop's not getting...
No, and The Drop was another one of those movies that's on my list of shame in the description below that I wanted to see really badly and just didn't get the time. Just kind of ran out of time. Like,
The Drop is one of these movies, I think I might have rated it like an 85 originally, but as time has gone on, I appreciate it more. Mm-hmm. Like, even more than I did. I came out of it and I was like, wow, that was really good. But now I'm kind of like, I legit love this. And it's not that he plays this role that he's like doing like acrobats in his acting. He's not like going from highs to lows. He's essentially just playing, I guess if I had to compare it, like a Rocky. Okay. Like, Stallone doesn't go, well, there's the occasional time where, you know. Yeah. But Tom Hardy stays on this level. Yeah. He stays on this level of, like, I don't know. I guess it's all in his face. Yeah. That he does, the character itself is not a type of character that's yelling and screaming, but he's staying relatively calm. Yeah. And that's not the kind of performance that usually gets awards or whatever, but it's on his face. And number 1, Brendan Gleeson in Calvary.
Oh,
Brendan Gleeson. Motherfucking Gleeson.
Oh, man.
Because, and I guess
the internet is so upset with us.
I guess I shouldn't have shot my load on Hardy because I want to say this about Gleeson, and I'm kind of repeating a point I've already made about Hardy.
That's fine.
It's all about the pain on his face. It's all about Gleeson's face in this. Like, it's a kind of performance where it's like he doesn't even, like, he does talk, but he doesn't have to say a word. And you see it. Yeah. He just wears it. It was really the only actor on this list that didn't get shifted. Once I placed him number 1, he was there. He never moved. Wow. As good as Keaton, Hardy, Gyllenhaal, O'Connell, like any of them were, he never moved from the number 1 spot. Very cool.
And a shout out as well to Brendan Gleeson for his versatility, because he can play a role like he played in Calvary, and then also play a role like he played in The Grand Seduction, which was basically straight comedy.
Alright, so number 3 was Keaton, 2 was Tom Hardy, and 1 was Brendan Gleeson.
Beautiful. Alright, folks, so now we've discussed our best actors. We're going to move on to our best actresses of 2014. Same deal. We got some honorable mentions, and then we go into a top 3 each.
Jennifer Lawrence, even though she's only done Mockingjay, I think Lawrence is...
She did something else this year, didn't she?
Yeah, but she was in the movie that nobody really liked. Yeah. With Bradley Cooper. But Lawrence is one of the best actresses going. Yeah, absolutely. And if she would play some, like she usually does like her Hunger Games, and then she does her other movie. Mm-hmm. But Lawrence is... I think
Lawrence was my number 1 last year because of American Hustle. And
yeah, she was probably one of mine.
Fire, so... Yeah,
oh yeah, I adore Lawrence. I've been repping her since that one movie. Now I can't. Winter Bone.
Yeah.
Rosamund Pike from Gone Girl. Mm-hmm. She played a crazy bitch, and I say bitch, she was a bitch. Yeah, in this movie.
She is a straight cunt, as is everyone else in that movie.
Everyone is she was very good in that movie. And then the one I'm blinded by, Emily Blunt, Edge of Tomorrow. Playing Full Metal Bitch, which I love that.
Yeah,
I just love
it's a great name.
And Into the Woods.
Yeah.
And, I felt weird about kind of including her in honorable mentions there. But then, she was nominated and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Woods. I thought, well, okay, that's cool. Yeah. So anyway, those are my...
So you don't have to feel weird about it.
Yeah, maybe it's not a bias.
Exactly.
Anyway, so number 3. ScarJo and Under the Skin and Lucy. Not that Lucy was, this fantastic film. But she played Lucy, and then she played a completely different role for Under the Skin, and she was in, we said her, but I never saw her. Number 2, Jenny Slate, An Obvious Child. And it's not, it's one of the picks, when I was, talking about Hardy, where she's not doing, backflips with her acting, but she owns the role of the, awkward comedian, cute as hell, in the sense that, she's just adorable, her character's adorable. She just owns that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Obvious Child is a movie that grew on me. I was digging it, but I wasn't oh my god, this is quite good. And then as the movie went on, I was like, this is getting better, and this is getting better, and I'm liking this character more. And so ultimately it ended up being quite a good movie for me.
Yeah, it's a very low key flick, but it's an honest, charming flick, and a major reason for that is Slate. And then my number 1, I'm rolling with Stacy Martin in Nymphomaniac.
Wow.
Because Lars von Trier, the guy who directed it, is so notoriously hard on his actors, and probably especially actresses, to the point where he's been criticized for it. And she just owned it. It was an extremely difficult role to play, as are most of Lars's characters, because he never makes an easy film.
Right.
So I'm giving props to Martin, because nobody else will.
That's true. Fair enough. Very cool. Yeah, like I said, Nymphomaniac was one of those ones that I so wanted to see, and if I would have seen that, Shia LaBeouf probably would have ended up as one of my top 3, probably knocking out Gyllenhaal.
All right, hit me up with yours.
All right, Best Actresses 2014 again. Got some honorable mentions. I'm going to start with Emma Stone in Birdman, and that's another one of those things where it probably helps that I love Emma Stone. I just love Emma Stone to death. So it helps that I really like Emma Stone. But she was really good as the drug addicted daughter of Michael Keaton. Interesting role for her, but she played it very well. So Emma Stone is an honorable mention. Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, playing Jane Hawking. She was really good. Actually looks quite a bit like Jane Hawking. That's basically like the perfect casting. Her and Eddie Redmayne. Like, that's just the perfect casting for that movie. And she was great as Jane Hawking. And then my other one is, I mentioned her earlier, Marion Cotillard for The Immigrant. She was in something else this year. I think Two Nights, One Day, or 2 Days, One Night, or something like that. I didn't get to see that this year. Now, my top 3 best actresses of 2014. We start with, and I have to actually look on my screen to get the proper pronunciation of her name, Ellen Dorrit Petersen. Was in the movie Blind this year.
I never got to see Blind.
Where she plays a blind woman who lives, obviously, in kind of a flat in, I think it's Sweden, but it might be London. And basically is just like kind of alone with her thoughts and a marriage that she feels is failing, and she thinks like her husband's cheating on her, and it's about like, you know, someone who knows of sight and then has lost it, and she's trying to play that role of trying to cope with the fact that like I used to know what it was to see things and now I can't. And she's like kind of a writer and a thinker, and it's like kind of giving yourself up to your own thoughts when you lose one of your senses, and she just killed it in this role. Like, it's such a good movie. A lot of people won't watch it because it is a foreign language film. People are like, I don't like to read my movies. And it's like, oh God, do I ever hate that.
You missed out on a bunch of the greatest
movies. Exactly. Yeah, really. Like, enjoy not watching Pan's Labyrinth. So yes, Ellen Dorrit Petersen for Blind. My number 2 best actress of 2014 is Scarlett Johansson for, of course, her and Under the Skin and Lucy. Under the Skin is phenomenal. Like, it was a really good movie and just visually really interesting, and an interesting story, an interesting idea of like an alien basically who is trying to understand humanity and live among humanity and understand like sexuality and everything like that. So that was a really solid sci-fi movie. And of course her, where she doesn't appear in the movie but voices the character of Samantha. And it was really in her where it's like, oh my God, like who knew Scarlett Johansson could act? Like, although, even though, you know, I obviously like her quite a bit, and I think she's underrated. And actually, a bit of a shout out with Captain America: Winter Soldier for playing Black Widow and bringing substance to the Black Widow character.
She's played a lot of variety. It's been a lot of variety. She can go from like a more serious role like her to like kicking ass in Lucy and Captain America.
Exactly.
If you're like, since we sometimes examine body of work through the years, I mean, that's a pretty incredible body of work.
Chef.
Oh yeah, she's in
Chef too.
So, I mean, it was like, a bit part, but she was still
there. So it was like, you know, ScarJo had a busy year. My number 1 best actress of 2014. It was her year this year. My girl, Julianne Moore. Map to the Stars, obviously, like Tyler mentioned before, a movie that kind of disappointed him, should have been better than it was.
Shit movie, but it wasn't her fault.
No, exactly. But I heard that she was quite good in her role. And then, of course, as the leading actress in Still Alice. As we mentioned in an earlier video, Julianne Moore has the distinction of being nominated for a Golden Globe as both leading actress and supporting actress, and I hope she wins them both. I don't think she'll win supporting, but she could very well win leading actress, because Still Alice is just a phenomenal movie, and it's like a lot of people talked about it like it was it's just one of these like daytime TV movies about, like, you know, disease of the moment, and I was like, I don't buy that for a second. And her performance as the lead character in Still Alice is just great. Maybe it helps that I've read the book, and the book is really good. Lisa Genova is a really good author. You should look for the other things that she's done, plus Still Alice. But her performance as that character who is slowly losing her mind to early onset Alzheimer's she just really knocks it out of the park here. And based on body of work, it was really close between her and Scarlett Johansson, to be honest, because there were just like almost like a 1A and 1B situation. But there it is. Ellen Dorrit Petersen, number 3. Scarlett Johansson, number 2. My girl, Julianne Moore, number 1. Best actresses of 2014.
The first time we did these videos in, 2010, you said?
Yep.
Pretty sure Julianne Moore was on there.
Yeah, she was for...
And...
what for?
Do
you have it there?
Maybe the kids are all right.
Yes, it was.
I'm not texting while he's talking. Yeah, she's like this kind of... I'm not going to say underrated, because I'm sure she gets rated just fine. But when do you hear anyone talking about Julianne Moore?
It's true.
Like, she's so criminally, overlooked by a regular person. We said this in 2010,
yes,
said that.
It's true. 4 years ago.
She's been knocking out these movies that are, interesting or different.
Right.
She's been doing a great job, and, I haven't seen every movie she's ever been in.
No.
I'm sure she's been done poorly in some.
I'm sure there's something there.
She's been knocking them out of the park, even in movies that suck. And
yeah.
It's just she's getting some buzz now for Golden Globes and shit, but who's talking about her?
She was tremendous this year, and I think it's her year. I hope she wins at least one of the Globes, if not both. And I hope she wins a fucking Oscar this year, because you know what? As far as I'm concerned, she deserves it. So, that's Best Actor and Best Actress. Now it's time to move on to, I guess, the quote-unquote main event of the video, which is the 3 Best Directors of 2014. And, of course, we have some honorable mentions for this as well. I guess I'll lead things off, starting, of course, with my honorable mentions. I want to toss out an honorable mention this year to James Marsh, who was the director of The Theory of Everything. Rob Marshall, who directed Into the Woods, as well as David Fincher, who directed Gone Girl. I love Fincher to death. Pretty much everything that he does. Even the people that kind of love David Fincher were just like, fucking Zodiac's boring, and I'm like, fuck you, that's like the best Fincher movie as far as I'm concerned. And only David Fincher could make me actually enjoy a movie in Gone Girl where every character was a jackass.
Yeah.
Rob Marshall, I think, deserves credit for Into the Woods because it was this big, sprawling, musical, stage show turned into movie where, so much is going on, and it's a quote-unquote all-star cast, and, there's just a lot going on in the movie, and visually it's just, it's all over the place. And I think he did a really good job putting the whole thing together, keeping the kind of continuity of the movie, because sometimes with stuff that was originally stage shows, it can end up being a little chaotic when it's brought to film. And James Marsh, Theory of Everything, just from frame 1 of that movie all the way to the end, it has this tone and this feeling where it's getting a little more foreboding as the time goes on, because eventually, obviously, you know what's going to happen to Stephen Hawking, and he did a good job in his direction, kind of leading the movie along those lines, even though you know what's going to happen. There's almost points in the movie where you're just like, oh man, he's going to beat this. Stephen Hawking's not going to end up in that wheelchair. Number 3, Jonathan Glazer for Under the Skin. And I love the style that this movie... And now there were a lot of directors who had really stylish movies this year that probably could have ended up making this list. Yeah. But I picked Jonathan Glazer because I think Under the Skin was the one for me that came the most out of left field. That how much I really enjoyed the way the movie is put together, and just the way that it flows and the feeling of it. I found this year especially, I'm big on the way a movie feels.
Yeah.
Almost as much as what happens in the movie. It's if your movie feels good, I can overlook some of the stupid things that might happen. And Under the Skin is one of those things where it's just I just love the way this movie feels. It feels like a 70s sci-fi movie. My number 2 favorite director of 2014 is Richard Linklater for Boyhood. I was a big fan of Boyhood from the first second that I heard about it. The idea of a movie that was filmed over the span of 12 to 13 years with the same actors and never really losing that sense of tone and that sense of feeling. And it takes an absolute master of direction to kind of pull that off. And Richard Linklater proved, I think, with Boyhood that he was an absolute master. And my number one favorite director of 2014, Matt Reeves for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Again, we talked about the way a movie feels and the grand scale, the huge scale of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was such a huge upgrade from Rise. Like, Rise kind of felt small and then gets a little bigger, but by the time you get to Dawn, it's just like its whole world. The scale got so much bigger, and Matt Reeves was so good at taking that whole scale and pulling it into a really emotional and investment-worthy movie. So, my top 3 directors of 2014. Number 3, Jonathan Glazer for Under the Skin. Number 2, Richard Linklater for Boyhood. And number 1, Matt Reeves for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Very nice.
Bam!
You saw some movies this
I
year.
saw some movies this year.
I actually only have 2 honorable mentions because I forgot.
Okay.
I kind of forgot.
No worries, no worries.
But whatever. But there was a few on yours, or a couple. I don't know how. I can't remember. I wasn't even listening.
Exactly.
That I thought, oh yeah, that was good.
You fell asleep.
I do gotta say though, like, okay, honorable mention, David Fincher. I kept quiet because I didn't want to blow my load. But like, he's one of these guys where he never writes his own movie. But he always directs, obviously, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the best directors going, because he can always bring it together, the music and the cinematography, and he always brings like these performances out of people.
I'll just sit here and quote Zodiac all day.
I'm kind of like, I'm beating this war drum, but Michael R. Roscom for The Drop.
Yep.
Because The Drop is, I guess, criminally overlooked, I suppose, because nobody's talking The Drop.
Right.
Just a low-key drama, crime drama. I mean, just great performances, great atmosphere, great feel, as you like to talk about, apparently, because you like to talk about feeling.
Feelings.
So, number 3, let's go to Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler. Because, I mean, you want to talk about atmosphere and feel. Well,
yeah.
That's almost as good as it gets, really. Even though, like, I didn't love the movie. Like, I didn't come out of it going, oh, fuck, like, top 10 movie of the year. But I certainly quite enjoyed it.
Spoilers. Yeah.
But it might be on my list. I'm just saying it's not top 10.
Fair enough.
Number 2, Richard Linklater for Boyhood. And it's not even because I like the movie that much. I just gotta show respect.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you pretty much just summed it up. Like, I think it's very possible he wins, like, Best Director.
He could. I was slightly surprised to see him get nominated at the Globes, because I didn't think that movie would garner that respect. Not that because obviously I really liked the movie, but I was just like, this is one of those ones that, like, I know it's going to get overlooked, but it ended up not getting overlooked. Matter of fact, it's also nominated for Best Picture. Good
performances, how he kept it all together over these years. Never, ever lost the tone of the movie, even over all those years.
Yeah.
I got to show love for that. And number 1, rather.
You can talk about Richard Linklater again if you want to.
Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu for Birdman.
Nice.
And the sad thing is, I sat on my computer like yesterday and looked up how to pronounce his last name, and I kept saying it to myself, and now I can't say it. A very late edition.
Yep.
But
we had to wait until the studio sent us the screeners personally, because that's 100% what happened. So thanks, studios, for sending us those screeners.
There's nothing in that film that isn't brilliant. I mean, even though Birdman was, like, I've kind of snubbed. Well, no, I guess I gave Michael Keaton Best Actor, but I mean, I didn't really throw it up for, like, Best Comedy or Best Drama, because I didn't know where to place it.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? So I didn't know, so I was just like, fuck it. It's brilliant in all ways. The way he put the music together, the way he shot it to, like, it even, like, how have I not said this yet? It all looks like it's one continuous shot.
Yes.
How do you get better directing than that?
That's true. I love the little production tricks that are put into making it look like it's, because we it's not all one continuous shot, but it feels like it is, and it does a really good job of looking like it is.
Yeah, like how do you like we said and this best director thing kind of incorporates best cinematography and everything else.
Exactly.
It's like, how do you not give it to that?
Exactly.
It's like it literally made the movie look like one shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that was so difficult.
Yeah,
and some people say needlessly difficult because like he was told don't do that. That's not a good idea. But because he did that,
anyway.
Because he did that. You're watching a movie about live theater that looks like live theater because the camera's never off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in live theater, it's not like it's like okay, cut.
Yeah,
and then you don't get that in this movie. It had to be done that way.
Absolutely. The way the movie feels and the way the movie is presented almost becomes like a character of its own.
Yeah.
And when it's done really well, that's kind of what happens, and that's exactly what it was in Birdman.
Yeah, like the way the camera drifts.
Yeah.
It's like intimate.
Yeah.
Because it never leaves. And then the fact that he chose to kind of put a lot of like the drum, which is like an instrument known for like kind of its like improv and like it's, you know,
yeah.
Only drummer's like a drum solo. I'm glad I got to see it before we did these videos.
Absolutely.
Because that would have been a real shame if I couldn't have represented that because the Academy cares about us.
One more time, kudos to the studios for sending us those screeners. So there you go, folks. There is our list of the top 3 best actors, best actresses, and best directors of 2014, along with copious amounts of honorable mentions. So, join us again on the next video when we're going to be getting into what I would call the co-main event of these awards, which is the top 10 worst movies of 2014.
We're gonna get our hate on.
Join us again for the top 10 worst movies of 2014, where we go ham on some awful movies that wasted our time. See you next time.
Later.
Thank you.